In a world filled with information, where do you turn to get straight talk about retirement, investments, and your money? Lock it in to the longest-running financial talk show in Arkansas, and let us help you build the bridge between information and application. Real financial change begins right here, and it starts with you.
It's showtime!
On today's show, how to keep your financial information safe in a world full of identity thieves. Plus, an opportunity to get your questions answered about the economy, Social Security, and retirement. The Get Ready for the Future show starts now.
This is the Get Ready for the Future show.
And welcome in. It is definitely glad to have you along for another Get Ready for the Future show. My name is Scott Inman. John Shrewsbury to my right, Troy Johnson to his right, as we get ready for straight talk about your money, your investments, your retirement. The subject of today's show, how to keep your information safe. We're going to talk about identity theft, securing financial info, how we do it here at GenWealth Financial Advisors. So stay tuned for that. But off the top, we're going to tell you about a great opportunity to get your questions answered about Social Security, the economy, investing, retirement, all in a special town hall. It's coming up at the Delta Hotel in Little Rock this coming Tuesday. December 6th is the date. It is the Financial Security Town Hall. The doors open at 6 o'clock. The program will start at 6:30. Dinner will be provided, and it is all absolutely free to you. But we need to know if you're coming. We need your spot reserved because space is limited. You can reserve it by going to getreadyforthefuture.com/academy as we roll into the final month, guys, of 2022. And I think I speak for all of us here and maybe all of us watching and listening. We're ready from an investing perspective. We are ready for 2022 to be over.
Yeah, I'd be fine if it was just like, over now.
Yes.
Can we just cut, the end off the ham here and jump into 2023? Because it's been a weird year, guys. If you stop and think about it, the markets have been very volatile. Obviously, we've had a little bit of a rebound in some of the markets. The Dow especially has been up a lot more lately than it has been prior to, let's just say 6 months ago. We've had a pretty good run up on the Dow, but the Dow's only 30 stocks. And so all in all, if you're an investor, you probably have not been real happy with your short-term returns. But I just am confounded by this because everybody seemed to be reacting from a market standpoint to a recession. There's a recession coming, so we need to sell stocks. Have you seen a recession?
Nope.
Have you seen a recession?
Nope.
I haven't seen a recession. So I don't know what all the hoopla has been about because GDP is very strong. Fourth quarter numbers are actually looking very strong. Mm-hmm. When you take a look at things like unemployment is still very, very low. When you think about company earnings, those have been fairly good. And so I don't understand why all of the doomsayers have been dooming, so to speak. Right. I don't get it. And so now, does that mean that, happy days are here again? We're not going to have a recession in 23? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying for right now, I think there is a lot of pessimism out there. And if we've had a recession, we've had a recession in consumer confidence and in investor confidence.
Right. And that's really the tricky place that we continue to exist. It's really no different than when we started this progression of rate hikes by the Federal Reserve back in the spring.
Right.
It's not about the current environment other than inflation. That obviously has created a struggle for people, but it's really about where are we going next? And we still don't know. I don't know, Troy, that we know much more as we go to December than we did in March.
No, I would agree with you there. I mean, we'll need to see what happens, but I definitely agree with what John says. I mean, if you look at just the overall economy, there's a couple of areas that give you some concern, inflation being the main one, but there's also some places that look pretty good. So, what do people do now?
And guys, I'm not really in the camp of, we've got to battle inflation because it's going to be a long-term problem. Look, we had two anomalies happen in the economy.
Yeah.
Starting in 2020, when we had COVID, we had the anomaly of shutting the economy completely down. So read that to say that we stopped producing goods. So no goods are being produced during COVID, or at least the initial months of COVID. Then we had the government push all this money into the hands of the consumers and into businesses to create demand. So you have this high demand and you have this low supply. Economics 101 tells you that is going to drive inflation. Now, as that is working itself out of the economy and those dollars are being spent and what have you, what are we seeing? We're seeing demand recede a little bit. We're seeing people not do stupid stuff like pay $10,000 over sticker price for a pickup truck or whatever the case may be. And we are seeing inflation beginning to moderate. And I think we're going to continue to see inflation to moderate. And I frankly think the Fed has overdone it with these rises in interest rates, these increases in interest rates. And I think there's a real possibility in 2023 the Fed may be having to retrace and to cut interest rates because it's slowed the economy down too much.
Yeah, that's a great thought. You think about it, rather than a recession, I think it's been a reset. That's what you're describing. It's been a reset post-COVID. And you think about, we just got a revised GDP number from Q3 of this year, and it was moved up to 2.9%. Now, does that sound like a recession? 2.9% growth in the third quarter of 2022. And, John, you talked about Q4 looking good. According to the Atlanta Fed, the GDP projection for the fourth quarter is 4.3%. And that's significantly up from where they were projecting fourth quarter GDP just a few weeks ago.
I think the danger that we're in right now is that we can talk ourselves into a recession.
Yeah.
I really do. I'm looking at Yahoo Finance right now on my iPad here. Citibank warns rolling recessions will shake global economy in 2023. What's the evidence? Where is the indication that that's going to happen? I think that we can talk ourselves into just about any state of mind that we want to, and I choose not to talk myself into a recession, frankly. That's just kind of where I'm at.
Well, Scott, you mentioned this is a reset, not a recession, and if for anybody that's listening, this is so easy to do. Go to Yahoo Finance, click on S&P 500 on the chart, and then go to the 5-year chart. You can click on that, and it'll show you, the standard stock market chart that goes way up and way down. If you do that, if you were to draw a straight line from where we were at 5 years ago to where we're at right now, then you'll see on that straight line, the market is kind of trending on that line until we reach 2020, until we reach COVID. At that point, it takes a decent dip. Then we inject all this money in the economy, and it goes up. It goes way up, way above that trend line. Well, since the start of this year, it's come back down, and it's basically met that trend line. So everybody's acting like they're so surprised, but we really shouldn't have been. We're just reverting right back to that trend line.
Yeah, that's called reversion to the mean in scientific language. The people that are statisticians, I'll get it out in a minute, they talk about reversion to the mean, and basically means that everything's going to come back to an equilibrium or to a normal trend line. And that's what I think the market has done and will continue to do. It will always continue to find that equilibrium. And anytime you have a situation where you have this anomaly on the downside and you have a big anomaly on the upside driven by all this government money that went into the economy in 2020 and 2021, then you're going to have distortion in the market. And so if you choose to look at the last year, you can have a completely different perspective than what Troy has just given you. You've got positive returns on the S&P 500 from 2018 through 2022, but you wouldn't know it if you listen to people that are commenting on such things.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about the economy on the fastest 4 minutes in finance this week, and to steal a little bit of that thunder as we enter a new month. What do you think about December? Well, history says December is usually a pretty good month. Only once in the stock market, going back to the 1920s, in fact, has it been the worst month of a calendar year performance-wise. That was 2018. We all remember that. It wasn't that long ago. And 75% of the time, December has been positive, has been in the green. So could we have a Santa Claus rally? Well, if you're not signed up and subscribed to the Fastest Four, you won't get that answer. We could look at the possibilities of that in the Fastest Four. And if you want to sign up to get that delivered right to your email inbox, all you have to do is text the word FAST to 501-381-5228. I'll say it again, 501-381-5228. Text the word FAST. And we're not there to sell you anything. We're not trying to continue to bombard you with other emails. It'll just be a short video of 4 minutes or less about the markets and the economy every week delivered to your email inbox. All right, so on today's show, we are talking about how to keep your information safe. We know identity theft is on the rise every year. In fact, in 2021, identity theft made up about 24% of the reports of fraud, identity theft, and other complaints. That's ID theft, made up about 24% of reports of fraud. According to the FTC, the number of consumer identity theft complaints in the U.S. rose 3.3% to just over 1.43 million in 2021, and that's up from 1.39 million the year before. Most common form of identity theft in 2021, as had been the case the year before, was government documents or benefits fraud. Before this, credit card fraud was the most common. So we're going to dive a lot of different places here when it comes to identity theft, but that just kind of sets the tone, guys, of how important it is to take measures, take precautions to keep your financial information safe.
You want to ruin somebody's quarter or maybe even half a year, steal their identity. That's exactly what will happen, because it is a mess. You have to talk to so many different people, and oftentimes you have to prove that you didn't do something. You know, and identity theft is one of those things that you don't know it until it's already happened. It's not like you see it happening right now. You don't really know it sometimes until it's already happened. And I've had people tell me that they've had mortgages taken out in their name and people defaulted on those mortgages, and they've got this massive ding on their credit report that they can't get rid of because it's like, oh, sure, you didn't do that, you know, and that type of thing. And so there is a lot around this identity theft thing. And I think it would be good, first of all, for us to really talk about the fact that here at GenWealth, we are really on top of trying to be sure that your personally identifiable information is secure. Such is the case with all of our vendors that help us with our investment programs, the Independent Advisor Alliance and LPL Financial. Both of those are platforms where we have investments, and those are all subject to the highest level of security. But you know, the highest level of security at a financial institution doesn't do you any good if your identity gets stolen as a result of a mistake that you make, and then people have access to it.
Yeah, and you know, you talked about the cost of that, not only damaging your credit status, cost you time and money to deal with it. The most recent consumer aftermath report from the Identity Theft Research Center focused on the financial and emotional toll of identity crimes. They surveyed people who had been victims of it. 29% reported having had a prior incident of identity fraud, so it wasn't even the first time that it had happened. 32% reported having financial-related identity problems, including credit and credit card-related fraud afterward. Of these, 100% indicated that they had been contacted by debt collection services, to your point, John. And then, you know, you think about the emotional side, and that's not really a stretch to go to this survey. You would expect this, but 79% of victims report adverse emotional consequences. You know, I think about, I have personal experience with this not that long ago, not in the realm of digital identity theft, but I had my truck broken into not that long ago, right?
Right.
And they were able to get some financial things out of that. And it was less of a headache than I think we're talking about here, but just having to think about, because what I had done, and I know better than to leave my wallet in the vehicle, but I didn't have good pockets that day, and I took my driver's license out. I took the essential things out of my wallet so that I didn't have to carry my wallet for the afternoon that we were doing it. And then I forgot to go back in and get it. So there were some cards in there that I don't even use, but were still in my wallet, and that's what they got. And so I had not only that, but I had to think of an inventory in my mind without having it written down of what I actually had, so that I could make those phone calls and stop those payments from taking place. And everything worked out just fine. But I think about just the time spent on that, the violation you feel. I get the emotional adverse consequence of that when you say felt angry. 76% people felt angry. I was in that bunch because you felt violated for sure.
Yeah, I think people need to realize this is identity theft is big business. It's not just one person sitting in a room in a faraway land. It's not.
Right.
In 2021, there was $699 million in losses. That's what people were scammed out of from phone scams. Sorry, alone. Mm-hmm. And that's just one little sliver of the big identity theft pie there.
Yeah, and here's the rub of this. It really makes doing business hard. When we're trying to contact clients about things about their account, they are very suspicious of, okay, is this a legit email? Is this a legit communication? Are you sure you're from GenWealth when you're calling, and that type of thing? And so it makes it very difficult to deal with. I get it. I understand. You don't want the pain and anguish of having to deal with identity theft or the financial loss, even though banks and credit card companies and things of that nature are very quick to make up the problem if you have money stolen out of your account. But we get it. But there are things that you can do, I think, that really help you to prevent identity theft from happening in the first place.
Yeah, a lot of that research has been borne out in some polling and some surveys as well. You think about what you can do. Victims reported discovering identity crimes in the following ways. 42% checked their credit reports. That's obviously a good thing to do on a routine basis, not after the fact, but just before as a preventative key. You'll see obviously anything abnormality that has taken place possibly on that. 41% noticed unauthorized transactions on their accounts. 36% received a bill for goods or services they didn't buy. I think about that on the banking side. It's real easy today. In the past, and when I was a kid and had my first checking account, I mean, you had this concept that you don't ever hear about called reconcile your bank statement, right? Because you got it once a month, right? And you saw all, and that was the first time you'd seen any of the transactions. Of course, we weren't making nearly as many electronic transactions back then either, but all my checks had cleared. I could balance my checkbook, but I could also see on there if anything happened that I wasn't aware of. But now we've got the ability to do that almost in real time by having these digital entries into, or electronic entries into these websites for where all of our banking takes place. I got to be honest with you, and maybe it's just because I'm a financial guy, but I look at my bank every day. Every day I'm looking at that, and not necessarily for that reason, but I'm going to see it because I look at it every day. And because those monthly statements may not be mailed to us anymore in paper form, I think a lot of people, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, and they don't routinely check to see what's even happening. One of the big things for just out-and-out theft in bank accounts is that if someone gets your bank account information, then they can actually do what's called a pre-note. They can actually do a little test. And you might see, 5 cents or a penny or $1 or something like that and think nothing of it. But that is actually just a test to see if they can go into your bank account and pull a significant amount of money out. And sometimes that comes in the form of a large amount of money at one time. Sometimes it comes in the form of a little bit, along the way. If they can get that going, then they can steal a lot of money and you might not even notice it.
Yeah. I kind of feel like technology has helped create this problem. Yeah. But advances in technology have also helped kind of curb this problem. So, just even as far back as 2016, which is not that long ago, most people reported that they didn't know that their identity had been stolen until a month after it happened. Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, now in 2021, at least, most people reported that they figured it out the next day. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's good news at least.
Scott, let's talk about one of the big things that is out there these days that, sometimes an email can look very legitimate, but it has some link on it that when you click on that link, everything just falls apart, and that you open the door to these identity thieves in technological ways that you don't even really know. So let's talk about how you can actually recognize a phishing email. That's what it's called, phishing, phishing. But basically they're phishing into your email account, seeing what they can pull out of that email account to be able to steal your identity. And I think we've actually got a graphic that we want to share with you on this. So let's talk about these for just a second. Number one, a phishing email will ask for sensitive information, passwords, credit card information, credit scores, or tax numbers, especially via a link or a download. It doesn't know your name. Dear valued customer. That is very often how that is. But sometimes more sophisticated phishing attempts actually do know your name. So you have to be careful with that. Here's one that is a really very good telltale sign. It is not from a domain email. For example, ours is at getreadyforthefuture.com. A phishing email is not going to come from at getreadyforthefuture.com. It will maybe come from at getreadyforthefuture.com, PDQXYZ, whatever. There's some other information in there because it's not legitimately coming from our email server. It doesn't use correct grammar or spelling. That's a dead giveaway. Especially, you've seen that.
That's
many
the
times.
big one.
Yeah.
That one reminds me of a story. So Microsoft is not going to send you an email with misspelled words. It's not going to happen. No major company is going to send you an email with misspelled words. I walked into my great aunt's house one time a few years ago, and she was on the phone with somebody because she had gotten an email that she had some virus, and there was misspelled words everywhere. The other thing that no company is ever going to ask you to do is go to Target or Walmart or wherever and get gift cards to be able to pay for the service. That's major sign of a scam.
Yeah, and the other thing that you can find out on these things, usually if there is a link on this, you can hover over that link. It's called a URL, but you can hover over that link. Don't click on it, but hover over it with your mouse to inspect the link. And if it looks like it is not to a legitimate web address or URL, then don't click on it. You can find lots of helpful resources for this info on our social media and in our podcast notes, and we'll have a copy of this graphic. If you're listening on radio, you can go to our social media on Facebook or on Twitter and take a look at the 7 signs of a phishing email. This is one of the big ones that target people, and it's really easy to get fooled in situations like this if you're not careful.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of ways that transpires. A lot of times it may just and we have to be on the defensive too, because there may be a phishing email that looks like it might be coming from a client and they're wanting money, right? So that's right. That on our side of things is one of the many reasons that we take extreme measures to protect our client's identity and their ability to withdraw money.
Let's talk about that for just a second. Oftentimes, people will just say, hey, I'm going to shoot John an email and get, $5,000 out of my account.
Right.
We can't do that. We cannot just send you $5,000 out of your account because you told us to in an email. We have to talk to you. We have to verbally speak with you and authorize that transaction. And I know that sometimes is frustrating to people. They are busy and they want to get stuff done, so they shoot out an email and they think, oh, that's just easy. I'll get this taken care of. That's not, this is here to protect you. We have to call you and confirm that it's okay for us to send that money out, especially if we have to, Troy, sell something in the account to actually generate that money.
Right. Either way, we need to talk to you in person, but I'll tell you where this comes in is a benefit to you, even though it may seem frustrating sometimes, is let's say it's not $5,000. Let's say it's $50,000. So I have a client call in, and they don't normally take large chunks out. So they call in and say, hey, I need $50,000. Well, part of our job is to politely say, okay, we can help you with that. What's going on? You fixing up the house? What are you planning to do with the money? And sometimes, and this has happened for sure, that they will give us a story of, well, I have this opportunity to do this, and this person told me I'm going to make a ton of money, and we've heard that story before, and it's been a scam. So we're able to get ahead of things and warn that client and prevent some of this from happening.
Scott, there are a number of measures that I think people need to be aware of that we do here at GenWealth to, and it may not, you may not understand the rhyme or reason behind it, but today we want to kind of peel back the veil and explain to you why we do certain things here at GenWealth.
Yeah, and to put a bow on that conversation about not taking instructions via email for a distribution into a bank account, we do have automatic distributions that can be set up with a client signature on a form. We're not talking about the monthly distributions that we're taking. This is mainly to protect against unusual or random requests, and so verbal confirmation is necessary there. But yeah, our process to really secure your identity and make sure that it's you when we get requests, and it's you that wants the things done that are asked for, it begins with our initial appointment here at GenWealth. When you come into the office, we're going to ask for your driver's license. So, sometimes you get a look on the face, too, that first appointment. Why do you need my driver's license? Well, here's why. First of all, we're going to need the information on the driver's license if we're going to open an account. That's part of the process, too. But the other part of it is we want photo identification in all of our offices. As we've grown and we've spread out across the state of Arkansas, we may have, in fact, just today, I had a client drop something off in the Conway office. He's my client, but he lives in Bologna, and he will come to the Little Rock office, but there's more convenience for him just 10 miles away in the Conway office. Well, guess what? The people in the Conway office have never met this client, right? So it helps us to have photo identification in our system to be able to recognize the client in any office at GenWealth.
And so let's play that out for a little bit. Let's say that someone walked in and told someone in the Conway office that they were your client.
Right.
And I need a copy of my application. Well, if we don't have a way to physically verify that you are who you say you are, then if we provide you that copy of that application, then we've just given that person all they need to steal that person's identity.
Right.
And so that's why we do that. When you come in, we ask you for a copy of your driver's license so that we can be sure to protect your identity. Scott, another thing that we do is to do what is called trusted contact forms. And this is essentially where you as the client name or designate a person who is able to be contacted on your behalf if something doesn't quite seem legit. And this could be, a identity theft thing. It could be a cognitive thing. Things like dementia slip up on people, or, accidents happen and people are not in their right mind, or whatever the case may be. And there may be need to contact someone that you trust, that we can verify that everything's going on okay with you. And so that's something that we do to, again, protect not only identity theft, but to protect the security of your finances here at GenWealth.
And I think about that too when you talk about cognitive. That's another, I think, point of emphasis that we could bring out here in this discussion. It's not directly related to identity theft, but it could be if you have aging parents and they are having diminished cognitive skills or cognitive abilities. They are really primary targets of the scammers, of the identity thieves that are out there. And there are scams that specifically target seniors. So if there is a diminished cognitive skill, they are more vulnerable. There's no question about that. I think everybody would realize that. But there should be, if you're in one of those situations, there should be steps taken, like maybe a power of attorney put in place for someone so that they would be able to act on their behalf and make sure nothing is going wrong fraudulently.
I think I could safely say that, if you are contacted by someone and they tell you they are with GenWealth, or they are with LPL Financial, or they are with Independent Advisor Alliance, then the thing that you need to do is, if you don't recognize the voice of that person on the phone and you haven't had a relationship with that person, you need to get that person's name and extension and then call us here at GenWealth to verify the veracity of that phone call. Troy, I know that's something that is going on these days that people really need to be aware of.
Yeah, call us, or if you think you're part of a phone scam and you don't want to call, just to be sure, come to an office. You can walk in anytime and talk to someone at GenWealth and make sure that what you're dealing with is legit.
When you think about it, all of these things that you are giving to your financial advisor, like Social Security numbers, driver's license numbers, all of this personally identifiable information should be secure, both from a digital storage perspective, but also the human side of that. I think that's what we're playing out here, is there has to be someone who is aware of that, more than one someone's, that is aware of protecting that for you. So it goes back to having a trusted advisor with a plan, and it also highlights for me, which we do often on this program, the value that goes far and beyond investing. The value of a trusted financial advisor is more than just getting you a good return on your investment. Think about if you have someone who is not intentionally aware and cognizant and proactive about keeping all of your information safe and secure, how much could you lose there, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is really helpful here at GenWealth is we work as teams. And so, for instance, I have a team. Candace Stanley is on my team, and Lexi Pruitt is on my team. We work all three together with our clients. And so our clients know that if one of the three of us call, then it's very legitimate. Or if they get a call from someone, it's not one of the three of us, then they can very easily call either of the three of us to verify that whoever that is that's calling is actually legitimately calling on GenWealth business. So it's very clear that things like this can be prevented. You just have to be in a position where you understand the dynamic of what's happening and don't make snap decisions about something because somebody calls you up and says, oh, we got to do something real quick. Very rarely does anything have to move really quickly in the financial world for you to be okay. And as always, you always have time to verify the veracity of that phone call.
Well, there's no question that we can totally commit that there's nothing ever bad going to happen to you, but a plan and a relationship with an advisor can't always prevent bad things from happening, but it can help you be prepared for if or when they do happen. And, your financial plan is really the same way. This is all of our discussion today is really part of the overall financial plan and the ongoing relationship with a trusted financial advisor. But the financial plan is the same way, guys. We can't promise that bad things won't happen, but we need to have a plan that expects them to happen or at least prepares for the possibility that they might.
Well, having a team working on your behalf, I think, gives you a great deal of comfort of knowing that, okay, there are more eyes than mine just looking at this thing, and there are people that I can go to if I have questions. Oftentimes when people get scammed, they get scammed because either they are faked out by something or they are led down a path that is maybe seemingly right. For instance, calling up and saying, the market's going to hell in a handcart. You got to do this right now. We need to move your money. And obviously, if there is anything going on, your advisor is going to be the one to reach out and talk with you. It's not going to be someone from LPL. It's not going to be someone from Independent Advisor Alliance. It is going to be someone from GenWealth talking to you. And it should be someone that you're very familiar with, or at least you have met at some occasion when you're in the office, or you've had an occasion in the previous days to talk with. So those are all things I think that you need to be aware of as you work through this process. And the planning, Scott, I think when you think about bad things happening, what the essence of a financial plan is that it is a roadmap for when bad things happen. We know bad things are going to happen. We know that the markets are going to be tumultuous. We plan for that. When people are calling and asking, hey, do I need to be worried about what's going on in the market? Oftentimes we can legitimately look at them and say, we've already planned for it. Your plan was built for a time exactly like this.
A reminder, once again, if you want to get more information on the things that we've talked about in the show today, whether it's the ways to recognize a phishing email or anything else, you can find helpful resources on the info, about this info, on our social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter, or in the podcast show notes. You heard the bell. It's time for our final thoughts. Troy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say it's very important when it comes to this identity theft. You need to have a professional that's in your corner that can help you prevent these things from happening in the first place, but we can't prevent everything. So if you have that professional in your corner, then if something does happen, then you've also got someone that can help you sort through all this and, resolve that problem.
Scott, it can seem like this is all kind of gloom and doom. All these identity thieves are out here and they're all circling around and what am I to do and all this type of thing. Oftentimes it's very easy to deal with this. First of all, there's a lot of technological stuff that we haven't even talked about here on this show that GenWealth, LPL Financial, and IAA have in place to protect your identity. But also, I think the real thing is the relationship you have with your advisor. your advisor is going to be aware of what's going on with your accounts and your situation at GenWealth. And so a simple call to your advisor can cure a lot of the concerns that you might have if you're confronted with an identity thief.
If you want to know more about your financial security, there's other topics we'll be discussing at our town hall. It's at the Delta Hotel in Little Rock. It's on Tuesday, December 6th. It's our first in-person workshop or event since COVID. The doors open at 6 and the program begins at 6:30. It's about the future of Social Security and the financial markets and retirement. It's all free to you. You can learn more and reserve your spot at getreadyforthefuture.com/academy. Reserve your spot today because space is limited. And that's all the time we have for this week's Get Ready for the Future show. As always, we are so glad that you joined us, and we hope you learned something today about how to keep your financial information safe. We'll talk to you again next time.
The GenWealth Financial Team is available to you 24/7 at info@getreadyforthefuture.com or call our offices at 866-653-PLAN. That's 866-653-7526. You should personally consult a financial advisor before making any investment, and no strategy can assure success. Securities offered through LPL Financial. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Independent Advisor Alliance. Independent Advisor Alliance and GenWealth Financial Advisors are separate entities from LPL Financial.